If you're familiar with MrBeast and his YouTube channel, allow me to assume that at least once you have stopped for a second before clicking on the video just to look at the thumbnail and admire its excellent execution. You see, as a thumbnail designer, I usually appreciate the thumbnail more than the video itself, so I wanted to test my skills and try to recreate one of MrBeast's thumbnails. I survived 50 hours in Antarctica as his latest video, and yes, you're right, I will try to successfully recreate this thumbnail from scratch with my own assets. Spoiler alert, I did it. But before I show you the finished product, let me explain how I did it. First, I analyzed the original thumbnail and divided it into 5 layers. The closest object to camera is the iceberg Jimmy is holding onto, and it's layer number 1. Layer number 2 is Jimmy's body. Layer number 3 is the ocean with 5 icebergs spread around. Then we have snowy mountains in distance, and layer number 5 is just the blue sky with a little touch of white clouds. Also, while we're here, it's worth noting how beautifully the depth perception is visible in this thumbnail. This was achieved by making the elements closer to the camera bigger, and as we move further away from the camera, elements gradually become smaller, and this creates a realistic depth perception. Anyway, knowing these things prior to starting with my own thumbnail helped a lot in the process because I knew which assets to collect before embarking on this journey. So, I got in touch with our beautiful friend called the Internet and asked for those assets. Hey boss, can you provide me with some assets for this MrBeast thumbnail remake I'm doing?
Happy to help you, brother. Give me an hour and I'll send you some stuff.
Internet was very helpful and provided me with some great materials. I had everything I needed, except for one thing. I didn't have the model that was going to replace MrBeast. So I messaged one of my friends. Hey Z, would you like to be a Walmart version of MrBeast?
Hey boss, fuck yeah, this is on my bucket list. What do I need to do?
It's simple. Put a winter jacket on, lay with your chest on the kitchen table, reach out with your right hand for the camera, and act with your face like you're in grave danger. Think you can pull it off?
I was born for this.
And 10 minutes later, he sent me this. It will need some adjustments, but it's a great starting point. So let's explain the thumbnail process. First, we create a new Photoshop project with dimensions of 1920 by 1080 pixels. Then we cut out our friend from his photo and place him inside the newly created project. We want the position of all elements to be as close as possible to the original thumbnail, so we start matching the body position of our main character. If you split the thumbnail in half and draw a straight vertical line, MrBeast's eye is right at the middle, and that's exactly what we're going for with our Walmart MrBeast. We then draw the shape of the iceberg MrBeast is holding onto in the original thumbnail and place it underneath our friend. This way he gets the initial contact with the ground, and it will be easier for us to move around his arms to match the original position. Then we add some snow texture on the iceberg and continue working on his arms. We make a cutout of each arm and position them closer to the body, as well as make them smaller so they match the size of MrBeast's arms. Then we delete the arms that are sticking out and brighten up everything. Using Puppet Work tool, we further adjust the positioning of his left arm and the fingers of his right hand. We fix the jacket connection on his left shoulder and then add the contact shadow to make it more realistic. We remove the parts of his thumb that's sticking out and fix this weird straight line that's inside his palm. Now that we have the body position in place, let's import all the background elements. We start with the water and make it brighter, then change the color of it to more vibrant blue. We then create a similar looking blue gradient that's going to be used as a sky and add some white clouds on top of it. Next, we add the big iceberg hill on the right side, cut it out, and apply 3 different adjustment layers. First one turns it into black and white because we don't want to deal with any colors. Second one is to make sure everything is nicely white and correctly exposed. And third one turns all the shadows into light blue color. In case you haven't noticed, most of the shadows in the original thumbnail are not black or dark gray, but rather light blue. We continue with the right side by adding a second iceberg and cutting it out. Considering the exposure fits right into the scene, we just need to make sure the shadows are light blue. To finish with the elements on the right side, we add the middle iceberg and apply the same effects we applied to the iceberg hill. Black and white, correct exposure, light blue shadows. Moving on to the left side, we'll add yet another iceberg. Completely remove the baby seal, cut out the sky, and then apply pretty much the same effects. Color the shadows light blue and make them brighter, and just slightly enhance the shadow effect below the iceberg. Same thing happens to the next and also last iceberg in this scene. Add it, cut it out, make it brighter, enhance shadows, add shadows, fix the shape because it looks nothing like the one in the original thumbnail, and then finish with the left side by making the mountains smaller, which will make the depth perception more realistic. Before we move on to our main subject, let's add some more snow texture on the surface he's holding onto. And you guessed it, we once again brighten it up and change the shadow color. But in addition to it, this time, we paint in some edge elements to add more depth to it. And we add a subtle shadow below his left hand. Nice. Let's fully focus on the Walmart MrBeast now. First, and arguably the biggest change, will be coloring the jacket to red. This is what you came here for, and you're about to see the change now. And there you go, it's done. Thank you for watching. Just kidding, we're not done yet. Now we'll take a piece of jacket from his left arm and place it in this spot here, because it just looks weird and messy, and it's crying to be fixed. Much better. Belser seems to be crying for some shadow now. Wow. Next we'll make sure the blacks are really black, and then change the skin tone color more towards magenta, just like in the original. Then we'll apply the techniques of dodging and burning, and we'll further burn the areas around his nose, eyes, and cheeks. We'll also add a slight tone of red color on these places, so later when we add the snow and freeze effects on these parts there will be more contrast, and it should look more believable. Now let's zoom into his eyes and make them slightly bigger. Then we'll make them pop by coloring his sclera to almost 100% white and making the iris just a little bit brighter. In case you were wondering, sclera is the official name for the white layer that covers most of the outside of the eyeball. We'll also give his teeth a redecoration by making them really bright and fully white. And if you take a closer look at MrBeast's mouth, you can see his tongue is very bright and red while lips are slightly darker with purple tones. We're going to apply the same effect to our thumbnail as well, but you may notice how I forgot to add the purple tones, so you'll have to forgive me on that. Happens to the best of us. After this, we apply a nice amount of brightening to his whole body, and then we add the first bit of snow around his head. We then apply some dodging and burning to both of his hands, and finally add some texture inside his palm. We continue by adding some more snow and white outlines around the body, as well as making his fingers look like they're frozen just by coloring the sides of them white, and then some more freezing effects, but now in his hair too. Now it's time to make a proper connection between his arm and ground, so we just paint out the edges with random brush until we get somewhat realistic effect, which ends up looking like this. We also need to color some of his fingers purple, just like MrBeast colored his. Coming close to an end, we need to add the icicles on his fingers and inside the nose. We simply do that by drawing an icicle shape, then apply frozen texture to it. Add white outline around the edge and make it brighter. After we have one icicle, we just duplicate it a few times and then scale and position accordingly. To top everything off, we add some snow once, we add some snow twice, then we add the text, color it white, add a black stroke to it, and slight shadow, and we're done.